Morning, beautiful souls. Today, I want to talk to you about Wetiko. This is Paul Levy work on Wetiko, and Wetiko is a Native American term to speak about an energy that exists in our minds at a non-local level. So, if you really want to learn what that is about, you're going to have to read the book, because what I'm going to give you here today is the invitation for you to really read some of this work. You can find a lot of the interviews also on YouTube. And if you're not familiar with Wetiko or Paul Levy's work, you really want to take a look at it. This is probably one of the things that I work with the most with clients, even though when they don't know that that's what we're working on, because it is at a level that you'll understand after today's little conversation why this is the main thing that we do when we do the healing work that I do with my clients, and how it gets to the point where we can actually get rid of Wetiko. So Wetiko, one of the things that in this book I'm quoting is that Wetiko is the cancer of the soul. So it exists at a level that, is psychospiritual. It's a psychospiritual disease of the soul and the mind. So it is sort of like a form of psychological vampirism that is like unbelievable when we really understand what it is. And it feeds on life's energy and delusions, psychosis. When we are walking a fine line between psychosis and perhaps losing our mind, right? We go into delusion, but we cannot come back sometimes. Or sometimes we are very much psychotic and neurotic, but we don't even know that we are, because we are seeing our life through a certain lens that is the lens of the virus. It's not our lens. It's not the lens of what really happened. We are not able to see logically what happened. So the term, again, Wetiko, is a Native American Cree concept. And it is basically when we think about the characteristics of the virus, it's a self-masking, invisible to us. Like we cannot see it unless we're doing a lot of deep healing work. And it's going to spread through psychological, emotional, mental, spiritual, emotional blind spots, where there is a blind spot, it's going to use it against us so that we can continue to be in the delusion of what it is, or the illusion of what it is, right? The illusion of how reality is. So it's going to use our blind spots against us so that we are not able to see through it. So it's going to distort our reality, our perception of reality, and it's going to manifest perhaps like, compulsive consumption, where it is food, drinking, shopping, sex, exercise, disconnection from nature, from ourselves, from family members, maybe definitely feeding on fear, separation, and trauma. Like whenever we feel rejected, whenever we feel separate, whenever we feel like we don't belong, whenever we feel like I'm all alone, whenever it feels like we are still stuck, no matter how much work we do, there's parts of us that are stuck in a specific time frame. That's because the Wetiko has found a blind spot to continue to use that, to feed on it. So it's almost like we're fighting. And sometimes it's not because we haven't done a lot of the work, it's because it's so many layers. So it's going to, like, it really is going to distort the reality. And I cannot see at the screen directly because I'm having issues with my eyesight still. I had a psychodrama session in one of my transpersonal psychodrama trainings with some of my colleagues, and it was so intense that I actually even had an eye infection after, and I've been dealing with a lot of body pain because of the work that I was doing. And some of that work had to do with the Wetiko, so that's why I'm sharing this with you today. So, the Wetiko internally is going to project shadows, aspects of ourselves onto others. It's going to really feed on unconscious fear that sometimes we don't even know that we're carrying, because we're not, if we open, it's like opening Pandora box. Like I remember when I was working through a lot of fears, and it was like, oh my God, I didn't know I was carrying this fear and that fear and this fear and that. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming, because it was a lot of fears, and a lot of those fears were ancestral fears, but I had to work through them in order for me to see beyond that, right? And this is an onion. This is always a process. It's not, oh, the healing process is done and that's it. The healing process, it always continues. It's just maybe not with the same intensity. So it's almost like a parasite, and it's going to use our thought patterns to filter through it, almost like a vampire, like a worm, like looking a parasite looking for the way in. So the moment it has a way in, it hooks, which is why when I work with my clients, we're always working on things that sometimes they have no idea that they were going to be part of what they needed to work on because they couldn't see it coming, right? So if we are struggling with feeling alone, sad, jealousy, it definitely feeds on jealousy, anger, feeling separate, feeling rejected, because that's the way in. When we start working on releasing the power that it has on us, we're going to experience the opposite of that. So we know that we're going to be in the right track. Even if it's for a few moments, you're making progress. At a collective level, when we think of Wetiko and the impact that it has, I mean, it's so much. So I'm not even going to touch on that. You can definitely read the book. I think the healing approach definitely is bringing self-awareness, being open to, like, at that moment when, I don't know, let's imagine like at 10 years old, when someone was hitting you physically, maybe you were fighting with a neighbor or something and they're hitting you. What is the terror that the body is going through when it's being threatened? Because a lot of the traumas are held at the body level, that we don't even allow ourselves to go there, because it's like, oh, it was just, somebody hit me and I almost fell, and there was a lot of things on the floor. I could have crashed myself, maybe popping eye, who knows, right? We don't think of like the terror of the body, no, of the higher part of me that knows everything is going to be okay, or that believes everything is going to be okay. But let's put ourselves back in the shoes of those parts of us that had to experience the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical trauma, whatever it is that you went through. And what is it like for the body, for that little body at that age, to experience that? And then we can have the compassion to do the work and grieve what that part of us is still grieving through, because we haven't paid attention to it. We don't allow that process to integrate. So it keeps repeating it. But the moment that we start paying attention to it and that we honor the grieving process, the sadness, the anger, the feelings that it went through, then we can start coming out of that. But we cannot do that without doing that. I call it the grieving process, because the grieving process goes in cycles. It's not straight linear. And a lot of that has to do with being sad, feeling the separation, the loss of a part of us, the loss of what it could have been. If somebody decides to have a child instead of having a career, there is a loss too of the potential career woman, or the fact that I'm not going to be able to travel because now I have to take care of a baby. So there is a loss in the different processes in our lives, specific experiences where we're making choices. There is a part of us that is saying yes to one thing and no to another. So what is that loss? What is it that you have to grieve in that moment in order for you to start doing the healing work? So becoming very self-aware and doing a lot of shadow integration and really being conscious about the relationships with your psyche, the different parts of your psyche, and really cultivating a presence of witnessing what the different parts went through and reconnecting all those parts with ourselves is key in the healing process for us to really come to terms. And the more we do that, the less power this virus is going to have on us, so that we can eventually get to the point where we really start releasing the power it has. And when it doesn't have anything to feed on, I don't think it's going to leave us alone unless we do something intentionally to move through it. But it will lose enough power that you might be able to see it and fight with this and release it, or get to the point where it's not spiritual bypassing, but when you do a lot of work and you get to the other side of love, of the separation, of the rejection, and you get to love and joy and groundedness and presentness, then this doesn't have any power. That's my opinion. But read the book so that you can understand for yourself if this makes sense. I'm going to put a link here so that you can grab it if you want to. And yeah, that's all I have to share. Thank you so much. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.